I think it's important to buttress or back up my claim even a bit more that this is not only common within the tradition, the immortality of the soul doctrine, but it's also even normative, definitive teaching within the wider Christian church. And it's not something that I'm simply just asserting. So this is a point of contention that is often raised when engaging with conditionalists themselves. Conditionalists or conditional immortality advocates who advocate that God has to do some sort of additional action to sustain the redeemed in existence by giving them something additional, some sort of additional gift. And then for the damned, they be damned in the sense that they cease to exist. They want to claim for themselves that they are perfectly within some sort of biblical orthodoxy. But that begs the question, that raises a question, well, what do you mean by orthodoxy? Of course, they certainly want to be orthodox, but what does that actually mean? On the surface, if we take any of the creedal statements, the conciliar statements, as well as later confessional statements, they would clearly not be within orthodox boundaries. That doesn't say anything necessarily about their salvation, doesn't say anything necessarily about, the quality of their biblical work, their exegetical work in some respects. It doesn't say anything about whether or not their view is consistent with some of the basic tenets of the gospel itself, the gospel message that we proclaim to a dying world. But it is missing important parts, and it is missing certain features that would quite clearly be in contestation or in competition or contradict the clear teaching of ecumenical statements that have been accepted throughout the world, throughout history. And so that is not something that one can really take lightly and just eschew or just ignore or simply pass by as if it's no big deal, as if no, we're still Orthodox simply because, well, we fit within these sort of basic parameters about what it means to be affirming of this kind of minimalist or simplistic gospel message that everybody believes in. As important as that is, that really doesn't map on to any sort of clear declaration about what orthodoxy actually is. So let me read some statements and from the wider tradition that would show quite clearly that conditions are in fact in contradiction with what is perceived or what is taken to be orthodoxy more widely, and what is taken to be orthodoxy within a broader Catholicity or Catholic Christianity. I don't mean that by that Roman Catholicism, but Catholic Christianity more broadly, by all the major sub-traditions, the dominant ones that have been here and that have bequeathed to us the wisdom of the ages that go back early to the fathers, even the early fathers. Now, I realize that even that claim has been contested. But okay, hold that thought. If we look at the Western tradition, certainly the Roman Catholic Catechism has affirmed the doctrine of the immortality of the soul. That is something that is creational, given at creation to God's image bearers at creation. That much is quite clear when it states, the Roman Catholic Catechism states, in summary, that the Imago Dei is endowed with a spiritual and immortal soul. The human person is the only creature that God has willed for its own sake. From conception, he is destined for eternal beatitude. This is speaking of him in his created state, not in his redeemed state. And so it's very clear that it is affirming a kind of soul, certainly, soul doctrine, but also an immortality doctrine of the soul in 1702 and 1703 of the Roman Catholic Catechism. Furthermore, the Reformed tradition itself doesn't depart from this teaching. This was never a contested issue within the Reformed tradition itself. In fact, the Reformed tradition itself states um, not only that the image of God is related to the soul in some way. If you look at um, the synopsis of Reformed doctrine, but also we can see this borne out in various confessional symbols or Reformed symbols of the faith. The Reformed confessions quite clearly state that the image of God is immortal, and this is often stated in the context of various attributes that are given at creation: holy, righteous, wise, and immortal. This is normative within Western Christianity, not just Roman Catholicism, but also the Reformed tradition itself. And certainly we could even point to the Anglican tradition, where in the Anglican tradition, if you look at the 39 Articles, or you look at the older books of Common Prayer, there is this affirmation of the soul and body, which is normative throughout the liturgies as we think about the objective ends of souls and objective ends of bodies, and how that relates to the liturgical rhythms themselves that are explicit and robust and thick within the Book of Common Prayer itself. There's an affirmation that the souls do live on.